So if you're interested in hearing how a grooming company that sells hair product also sold millions of dollars of fragrance, you are gonna love today's video. All right, so here are the Pete and Pedro fragrances, all right? The first one we came out with was not this one, it was this one. It's Rebel. Second one that came out was Hero. We made a mistake with this, I'll explain that in a second. Third one was King. Fourth one was Villain, and then the fifth one we recently launched, Legend. All right, so here's the deal. The reason why we decided to actually launch a fragrance was because there's so much great opportunity in this world, right? But the thing that I knew was that, well, if we're not like a fragrance house, how are we gonna be able to actually sell this product? And so my genius idea, and this was one of the best ideas we've had, or I've had, is have it be inspired by your favorite fragrance, which at the time was Creed Aventus. It's a super premium fragrance. It's like $400 for a bottle, right? I thought in my head, I'm like, wait a second. Most dudes can't afford to buy it, but they also have all heard that it's incredible. And so one of the best things that I ever did was basically create a inspired version that was super affordable, like $50, that was inspired by popular fragrances that other people all have smelled or that haven't smelled, but they've all heard all of the fragrance experts talk about how incredible it is. Why is that important? If I were to come out with a fragrance and be like, yo, the new Pete and Pedro fragrance Rebel, the scent, oh, you wanna know what it smells like? It's julep berries with chrysanthemum, a little bit of tonka bean, inspired, people would be like, all right, no thanks, right? Because there's not really any credibility that has been built up in terms of our ability to create an amazing fragrance. Now, if you're exclusively a fragrance house, then of course, that's kind of what you have to do. So if you're like a Parfums de Marly or some of these other fragrance houses, that's what you do, right? You create a little bit of buzz, you charge a premium price, you have super sexy bottles. But I was like, wait a second. What if instead of doing that, we basically correlated it or had it be like inspired heavily by a super crazy premium fragrance that is expensive that everybody has heard is incredible? Would people buy it? We came out with Rebel, inspired by Creed Aventus, and my God, we sold a ton. Now, one of the downsides of doing a fragrance is that it's a custom product, right? And so your minimum order quantity is high. We had to order 5,000 of all of these fragrances. Now 5,000 is a lot of fragrance, but at $50, do the math, right? $250 or $250,000 if we sell through all of this. And in terms of the price, it's very affordable in terms of creating a product, right? I'm not gonna say exactly, but it's under $10. And so the margin is huge. The other cool thing is that it's a high price point product. And so we decided to roll out with this. I talked about it as it's my favorite fragrance. It's inspired by this. Everybody either has smelled this, the Creed Aventus, or they've heard it is amazing. And so it takes away the barrier that most people have when it comes to buying a fragrance of not knowing what it smells like. So Rebel, we launched it, boom, off to the races, amazing. We sold a ton of this, so much that we had to actually reorder fairly fast, right? And then we're like, oh, let's come out with the second one. And then I came out with Hero. This was a mistake. Why was this a mistake? I'll tell you. Because Hero was not inspired by a super premium, expensive, almost out of reach fragrance. It was inspired by one of my favorite fresh fragrances, which was Acqua di Gio Profumo, all right? You can buy that for basically like $100, a little bit under $100. So this one was honestly a mistake. Everybody loves the fragrance because it smells incredible, but it wasn't at that premium price point in terms of its comparison. And so they were willing to try it because they all knew that they would like it because they've all heard or tried Acqua di Gio. But in terms of that really like that it factor of super premium inspiration, crazy affordable price, right? We missed. And this one wasn't the greatest seller. It's still decent, but it's not incredible. But then, number 3, we're like, let's do it again. And so we came out with King. Another one of my favorite fragrances was Creed Green Irish Tweed. Amazing, right? Most dudes have never smelled it, but they've all heard that it's incredible. They also know that Creed is a very reputable brand. And so, heavily inspired, Creed Green Irish Tweed for King. Once again, in terms of selling it, it's not that hard, right? It's inspired by Creed Green Irish Tweed. Regular price is like $500 for a bottle, but this under $50, right? It's that $50 price point that I have found is kind of like the sweet spot, $49. $49 isn't hard for people to get to. Once you start going over that, then people have to think about it a little bit more, which was on purpose. We wanted to make sure that all of our fragrances were at that $50 price point. And so what we did, we created these three, and we were good, right? We're like, this is awesome. Now, each time we launched, the trajectory of kind of like the flash, like bang, like coming out, sign up, get ready, don't miss it, you're getting a deal, blah, blah, blah. Because once again, it's all about building the hype. It's all about talking about it. It's building it up. It's getting people to join your mailing list, right? So that when you launch, boom, you're selling amazingly like day one. We sold like 1,000 of these day one, right? We sold literally like $50,000 worth of Rebel when we launched it, all right? Hero, we didn't do as good of a job. And people also didn't feel like it was that big of a, almost like a value play, because the Inspiration fragrance wasn't at that like $500 price point. But I learned my lesson from this one. This one, King, also that $500. But then we're like, all right, should we do another one, right? What other fragrances are out there that are very highly reviewed, very highly touted, that people really love? All right, we did a bunch of surveys, we did a bunch of quizzes, and we did a bunch of research in terms of what fragrances rate very high that are expensive. And Tom Ford fragrances kept coming back as some of the top. And so with Villain, Tobacco Vanille kept coming back as one of the highest rated Tom Ford fragrances. And so that's what we did. We went to the drawing board, we got a bunch of samples, and one thing you need to understand, when it comes to the development of a fragrance, it's about a 6-month time frame. Not only do you have to develop the fragrance or what goes in the bottle, then you've got to source the bottles, you've got to paint the bottles, you've got to get the boxes, the packaging, you've got to print everything, and then you've got to have it filled, all right? And so we ended up doing this, right? But this one, we really went overboard in terms of hyping it up, talking about it. It's amazing. It was also launched at the right season. It's kind of a warmer fragrance, and so we launched it in the fall months. And this bad boy sold like crazy. It's basically our second bestseller next to Rebel. But then we're like, all right, let's do it again. Because as you're sort of building this, right, you're thinking, oh, let me keep adding fragrances. We came out with Legend. Legend is inspired by another Tom Ford fragrance, which was actually effing fabulous. Once again, we went to the research, we did a bunch of polling to our audience. Which fragrance do you want to try? Which fragrance have you bought? Which fragrance would you like us to come out with? And effing fabulous kept coming back. The truth is that most people have never smelled it, but the good news for us is that because this was so expensive, the Tom Ford fragrances, once again, are crazy expensive, like $500. We knew that because it had a lot of hype, a lot of people talking about it, we could sell it. Unfortunately, I think we went to the well one too many times. We had too many options for people to choose from. What we should have done is limited runs. Get 5,000, once it sells out, do another one. And that is one of the things that I'd like to talk about. A mistake that we made was basically trying to carry inventory of all 5 of the fragrances, all right? The other problem when it comes to selling it as a business, right, when you only have one, it's easy. This is the one, you keep hammering it, you keep talking about it, Rebel, 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 right? But every time you add in another option, it's like, try this, it's inspired by this, and then try this, it's inspired by this. But if you like this, it's the message gets a lot harder to basically get out there and communicate, as opposed to when you've got a very structured, singular message. When we had Rebel, easy. When we had Hero, pretty easy. When we had King, it started to get a little bit clunky and compromised. But one of the other problems, like we said, when we came out with Legend, we didn't do the greatest job in terms of hyping it up. We already had 4 amazing fragrances, and we launched it very closely to the time that we launched Villain. And we bought too much. The other problem to Legend is that it wasn't adopted, or it wasn't as exciting to people as some of the other fragrances, which means it didn't move as well. And this brings me to another problem. I'm actually gonna take you over here to show you. Like we've talked about a bunch of times, when you've got stuff, products, inventory, whatever sitting on the shelf, think of it as dollar bills, right? If this Legend right here, this whole big thing that's full of Legend, we have how many? 45 cases, 2,520 units in this case, or in this pallet, right? We've gone through about half of it, but we only sell about 200 units a month when we're not really like promoting it, which means it's gonna take us a very, very, very long time to actually get this out. We also wanna come out with a new limited edition fragrance. And so what we're gonna do, and if you're interested, I'm gonna have a link and a discount code down below, 50% off. We're gonna try to move this out because we're not gonna reorder it, so it's not like we're losing money, and it's also a way for it to get onto people and out the door, all right? And so, at this point, if you guys are interested in helping us out and also smelling incredible, I'm gonna have a link down below, also a discount code, 50% off until basically we sell out. We are trying to move through a few of the fragrances. We're trying to move through Legend, we're trying to move through King. We only have like a few hundred of these left, and we're also trying to move out Hero. We are gonna be left with these two fragrances because they're our best sellers. And then what we're gonna do is limited runs, limited editions. 5,000, you get it, you hype it up, and then boom, when you're done, you're sold out, then you come out with a new one. It's about doing and working smarter as opposed to thinking that just adding a bunch of iterations or a bunch of different products or units is going to actually move the needle. Does it move the needle? A little, but you're also cannibalizing some of your sales. The other thing that you do, which is a good thing, is that as you come out with new products like these, you have the ability to basically compartmentalize your customers, meaning all the people that were on the initial email sign up for Rebel got the Hero notification. Everybody who got the Hero notification, who bought Rebel and all those, then the next one, boom, they're getting an email as well. So you're building this cologne or this fragrance sort of customer base that every time you come out with something new, boom, you email them and you're going to automatically have sales because these people have already bought and trusted that the fragrance is amazing. And like I said, the best thing that I ever did, and the only reason why I was able to sell literally millions of dollars worth of fragrance, is because I used a little bit of psychology. I knew that if I were just to create a fragrance, the Pete and Pedro fragrance of awesome, it would not sell as well as if people psychologically thought, oh wait, Creed Aventus, I've heard of that. It's amazing, it's really expensive, I can't afford that, but I can afford $50, right? It took the barrier to entry away because the price is good. It also took people's like resistance because they didn't know exactly how it smelled. They trusted that everybody else that was hyping up Creed Aventus would basically be right and that it would smell incredible. And so they were willing to get out their wallets, pull the trigger, and as a result, we have sold millions of dollars of Rebel along with these other fragrances. But we need to get some of these out because, like I said, we've got way too much inventory of some of these fragrances. And every time I go to order one, it's me investing $50,000. And if it's gonna take me 2 years to move through those 50,000 units or 5,000 units, it's not worth it. Something else that I did, I just wanna talk about real quick, that was actually a really, really good idea, was samples. All right, deluxe samples. All right, one of the other things that you know is that people are reluctant to try fragrances because they don't know how it smells. And so one of the things that we realized pretty quickly is that we needed to do samples, right? Big samples. And so once we launched Rebel, we were like, okay, people want to try this. What are we going to do? How are we going to get it on their body, right? And so we actually, let me see if I can find one. Where is it? Where's the Travallo? Let me have one of those. Thank you. All right, one of these. It's a little travel sprayer that's refillable. And so we thought, all right, here's another great idea. What if we pre-fill a travel sprayer with Rebel and sell it for like $30, $20, whatever that number was. And so that's what we did. And so for the first like few months of having Rebel, we were like, all right, let them not only get a cool like little gadget, which is the travel sprayer, they're gonna get it preloaded with like 100 squirts of Rebel. Allows them to try it and do that. But I'm like, you know what? It's not very smart in terms of the amount of labor that it takes to fill up all these travel sprayers. And as we basically added to the product proliferation, it was not something that we could do. And so we basically went to our manufacturer, we went, hey, we wanna have sample sizes with a little atomizer on the end. How do we make that happen? And we did. And now we sell them as a set. And so it's great margin, and it also allows people to try it. They try it, they get it, they buy the collection or the set, and they love it. Gentlemen, that's it. Did you dig it? A little brain dumpy, but I just wanted to talk about the fragrances because we sold a lot. We honestly at Pete and Pedro probably sold more in terms of our fragrances being a grooming company than a lot of these influencers that have come out with their own like fragrances, right? Even though their audience knows and they trust them, I did something that I think was actually a stroke of genius, and that is correlating our products to an inspiration product or cologne that's crazy expensive. People already know about it, they've heard about it, they can do a little Google search to hear and go and smell and see what it's like, but then because we were selling it for $50, we moved it out. Now, it's not a clone, it's not a copy, it is heavily inspired. And remember, if you're interested in smelling effing fabulous, gentlemen, there's a link and a code down below to go grab Legend for 50% off. I need help moving this out the door because these dollar bills that are on the shelf are preventing me from doing other things, and I want you to not only smell amazing, I want to give you a great deal because you're a subscriber here on the Empire channel. Gentlemen, that's where I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for hanging out. If you dug this video, drop it one of these. If you haven't checked out Pete and Pedro fragrances, they all smell amazing. Some aren't going to be around long.